What is the strangest mystery that is still unsolved? On April 19th, 1995, a truck bomb detonated outside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The explosion killed 168 in what was the deadliest terrorist attack on the United States until 9/11. To date, it still remains the deadliest act of domestic terrorism in the country. One of the lesser known things about this is the case of a missing leg. Investigators discovered the leg laying among the rubble and identified it belonging to Lakeisha Levy. The only problem was, she'd already been buried with both her legs. She was exhumed. Her severed leg was placed in her coffin, while the other leg was taken to the FBI laboratory for identification. Since it had been embalmed, a DNA sample was unable to be obtained. The extra left leg, which had been mistakenly buried with Levy, is suspected to belong to an unidentified 169th victim, whose body had mostly disintegrated in the blast. This has led people to suspect there was an additional terrorist involved, even though perpetrators Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols had been convicted, with 2 others later identified as accomplices. So who was the possible additional bomber? They still remain unidentified now 25 years after the attack. Close bracket. The lost A-bomb off the coast of America, which the US government said not to worry about in the 50s and tried to cover up, was dumped in the ocean in an aviation accident, and it's still lost to this day. 100x more powerful than what was dropped in Japan. Another one is Colonel Philip Shue's death. On April 16th, 2003, 54-year-old Colonel Philip Shue left his Texas home and headed to work. 2 hours later, he was found dead in his car, an apparent victim of a car crash. The car was caved in on the driver's side and Philip suffered major head trauma as a result. He was killed instantly. This is where it gets weird. Philip had a tear in his t-shirt under his fatigues. There, they could see a 6-inch vertical gash in his chest. Above the entrance to the 6 inches gash were at least 5 scratch marks, which the autopsy report said were consistent with hesitant marks. Both his nipples had been removed with surgical precision. The 5th digit on his left hand had been amputated, and his left ear had been lacerated down to the bone. Duct tape was dangling from both of his wrists and the top of his boots. It was ruled a suicide. The Overtown Bridge. It's a bridge in Scotland, where dogs always unexplainably jump off. It's very strange and nobody knows for certain why they do this. Dogs who survived reportedly walked back up and jumped off again. They even had to put up a warning sign to keep your dog on a leash and to watch them. A lot of theorists say maybe it's because of certain scents or animals down below, but most people have disagreed with this theory. It's fucking weird. Edit. In reality, I've done more research thanks to some comments, and it seems like people have romanticized this to make it creepier than it actually is. I don't know exactly what to believe, since there's so much misinformation out there, but I'll just believe the articles who've done the most research for now. They say it was most likely not hundreds of dogs, because they can't find reports of that many jumping off like the legend says. It was only around 6. So it's likely that I was misinformed, like so many other people were, and it's not actually a huge phenomenon lol. But it's still sad and a bit weird that 6 dogs jumped off. MV Joyota, https://endpointwikipedia.org/wiki/mv_Joyota. Barnacle growth high above the usual waterline on the port side showed that Joyota had been listing heavily for some time. There was some damage to the superstructure. Her flying bridge had been smashed away, and the deckhouse had light damage and broken windows. A canvas awning had been rigged on top of the deckhouse behind the bridge. Joyota carried a dinghy and 3 Carly life rafts. 3, but all were missing. She did not carry enough life jackets for everyone on board. 7. The starboard engine was found to be covered by mattresses, while the port engine's clutch was still partially disassembled, showing that the vessel was still running on only one engine. An auxiliary pump had been rigged in the engine room, mounted on a plank of wood slung between the main engines. However, it had not been connected. The radio on board was tuned to the International Distress Channel, but when the equipment was inspected, a break was found in the cable between the set and the aerial. The cable had been painted over, obscuring the break. This would have limited the range of the radio to about 2 miles, 3.2 kilometers. The electric clocks on board, wired into the vessel's generator, had stopped at 10:25 and the switches for the cabin lighting and navigation lights were on, implying that whatever had occurred happened at night. The ship's logbook, sextant, mechanical chronometer and other navigational equipment, as well as the firearms Miller kept in the boat, 7, were missing. A doctor's bag was found on deck, containing a stethoscope, a scalpel, and 4 lengths of blood-stained bandages. 3 lighthouse workers with impeccable mustaches traveled to a remote island on December 7, 1900 for a lighthouse shift that should have lasted for 2 weeks. When a boat arrived to pick them up, they were gone. No trace of the bodies, and the lighthouse was strangely locked. Not only was the setting normal, meal ready to be served, but there was no fire in the fireplace, and the clock stopped. One of the men kept a log in a diary, and he said that the seas were rough one day, but when monitored, it was actually calm. No one knows what happened to them. Source https://www.historicmysteries.com/Flanner-Niles-Lighthouse/. Source 2 skip to 443. https://m.youtube.com/watch v = TWNPKB908Y. Edit. The mustaches have nothing to do with the story at all. I just really liked them. The Sellish Seafoot or the Mad Axemen of New Orleans. The Sellish Seafoot are the approximately 20 dismembered feet found in or around British Columbia or Washington, USA. The feet sometimes are found still inside of shoes. No one knows how they got there or where they came from. Over the course of the last 13 years, the authorities have ruled out foul play. The Mad Axeman of New Orleans ran rampant in 1918 and 1919. He murdered 6 people, usually those of Italian descent, with axes or straight razors. In March of 1919, he sent a lengthy letter from hottest hell that was pretty nonsensical. But the most relevant paragraphs read, "Now, to be exact, at 12:15 earthly time, on next Tuesday night, I'm going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I'm going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I'm very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions, that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well, then, so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is, that some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe." There were no murders that night, because every dance hall in Nala was filled to capacity. The whereabouts of the last Gestapo chief Heinrich Müller. The last verified sighting of him was in Berlin roughly 3 days before it fell. He had stated he knew full well what the Russians did to prisoners, and he had no intentions of being captured. As chief of the Gestapo, he more than likely had access to foreign documents as well as ways to replicate them. Both the CIA and the KGB spent time looking for him, but no trace has ever been found. The Tamim Shud case, also known as the mystery of the Somerton Man, is an unsolved case of an unidentified man found dead at 6:30 a.m. the 1st of December 1948 on the Somerton Park beach, just south of Adelaide, South Australia. The case is named after the Persian phrase Tamim Shud, meaning ended or finished, which was printed on a scrap of paper found months later in the fob pocket of the man's trousers. The scrap had been torn from the final page of a copy of Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, authored by 12th century poet Omar Khayyam. Tamim was misspelt as Taman in many early reports, and this error has often been repeated, leading to confusion about the name in the media. This is my favorite weird and barely known one. Back in 2013, an unknown group assaulted a power substation in California. By all appearances it was pretty sophisticated, scouted firing positions, all casings wiped of prints. They targeted transformers, so they'd take time to overheat before triggering any alarms. Also knew exactly when the police would arrive. No suspect or motive to this day. They also cut some fiber optic cables in a vault nearby. Conspiracy types think it was a dry run by Russia or possibly China to see how effective an attack like that might be. https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/metcalf_sniper_attack. What happened to Brian Shaffer? https://n.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/disappearance_of_Brian_Shaffer. This happened in my hometown. This med student went to a bar with friends and then fully disappeared off the face of the earth. Edit. The podcast True Crime Garage has an incredible series on this case. The hosts are both from Columbus and around Brian's age. They talk through the whole case in depth, and they also have a few guests that they talk with as well. The Miyazawa family. Just listen to the Casa File podcast on this, and it has my mind blown. Someone entered the family home around 11:30 p.m., killed everyone, ate some ice cream, took a nap, pooped and didn't flush, changed clothes and left like 8 hours after the crime. 20 years on, and we don't know who or why.